أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي آمين يا رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope all of you are doing great. Now in this lesson inshallah we are going to study a very important and a very frequently occurring scenario in the Quran, most importantly, and that is the topic of stress by alteration of the sequence. Alright, so we all know what the normal sequence of a Jumla Fi'liya as well as a Jumla Ismiya is. And now we are going to learn that if we alter their normal sequence, what is the impact or effect of that alteration when it comes to the meanings of those sentences. Alright, so let's begin our lesson. And of course, before beginning, we are going to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this task easy for us to understand as well as to teach. So, Rabbi Yassir, Wala Tu'assir, wa Tamim bil Khairi, Amir Rabbil Alameen. Okay, so this is the one, or this is a pointer that inshallah we're going to address in this lesson, sequence alteration. Alright, but before we begin our Arabic lesson, of course, as always, we are going to get some English analogy so that we can have some foundation and then we can build up on that. Okay, so we have a few sentences over here, and as we read these sentences, I would like you to label these sentences as either stressed or normal. Okay, so our first sentence is we watch documentaries. Is this a stressed or a normal sentence? I hope that you're saying it's a normal sentence. There's nothing stressed over here. Then we have the second one. We only watch documentaries. Now here it's a very subtle kind of stress and a very tiny bit of exclusivity due to this word only. Okay, so an exclusivity or specificity has been added to the word documentaries, that we only watch those. Okay. Then the third sentence is, it's only documentaries that we watch. Here it's once again stressed, right? At this moment, we're not talking about why it is stressed or what is the thing, what is the mode of the stress that has been applied over here, but we are only labeling these sentences as either normal or stressed. Okay, so this one is also stressed. Then we have the last sentence, documentaries. We watch only those. Here you can see that this is quite a stressed one. Okay, okay. Now what now these are the same sentences. The next step that I want you to follow is that I want you to identify these words as either verb, doer, or the object. Okay, now don't get into the subject, object, and all those things. Simply verb, doer, and object. Okay, so the word we, of course, is the doer. Watch, this is the verb, and documentaries is the object. Okay, all right. And same's the case here. We only watch documentaries. Now, what do we see here in all of these sentences? We see that we have the same bunch of words. We have we, watch, and documentaries. And these three words have been moved around in different ways, and that displacement has led to different levels of stress. All right, so this is a regular sentence, but whenever we, all right, and here we have simply introduced another word only. But when it comes to these two sentences, we notice that we have moved the word documentaries in the beginning of the sentence, and here actually in the middle of the sentence, and over here we have moved the word documentaries right in the beginning of the sentence. All right, so this displacement rather has led to a different level of stress, or rather an intensified stress, which has been imparted to these two sentences in particular. Okay, so it's only documentaries that we watch, or documentaries, we watch only those. So a certain kind of profound, I would say, and quite prominent stress has been added in these two sentences only by moving the same bunch of words around within the sentence. All right, This now this thing is present in English, so we use this kind of sequence alteration on a daily basis all the time in our daily life, and we just often fail to observe this thing. But this is something that we are quite familiar with. Okay, now, the same thing happens in Arabic as well. All right. So, whenever now there are two terminologies that I would like you to remember, understand, and use in your conversation too. Whenever you're thinking about, whenever you're conversing, you're talking. I would want you to observe these two things, and whenever you realize that you have used any of these two sequence alteration methods, that I would want you to um, at least in your mind, make a mental note that you have just, displaced the word either at the beginning or to the end. All right. So know these terminologies inside and out. And what are these terminologies? They are muqaddam and muakhar. All right. So whenever any element of a sentence gets moved or displaced to the beginning, that element is said to be muqaddam, all right, to the beginning, muqaddam. And whenever you displace any element of the sentence towards the end, all right, then that is called being muakhar, all right, from akhir. Akhir means the end, all right. So muqaddam and muakhar, and the act of this displacement for this is called taqdeem, all right, and this would be takhir, all right. So taqdeem. Now I don't want you to remember taqdeem and or takhir, but understanding and remembering muqaddam and muakhar is more than enough. Okay, so anything that gets displaced to the beginning is called muqaddam. Anything that gets displaced to the end is called muakhar. All right. So here in this set of examples, the English ones, we see that here the word documentaries has been muqaddamized, all right, or it undergoes taqdeem. You could either say that, or you could easily say, because I know what the current youth generation or young generation is quite familiar with. So yeah, the word documentaries has been muqaddamized, right? And um, usually the verb and the doer are present in the beginning of the sentence, but here we see that they have been muakharized, all right, or simply displaced to the end. All right. Now, superimpose the same concept to this Arabic example. We have the sentence Haza kitabun minallahi, right? Now, this is the normal sentence, Jumla Ismiya, right? And uh, if I ask you which one is the Mubtada, I'm sure you would say it's Haza. Now, why is it not Haza Kitabun? Well, that is because whenever the Musharun ilay, the thing that is pointed at, whenever the Musharun ilay is not attached with al, alright, it means that it is a sentence. It means that this musharun ilay is actually your khabar. Okay? And so, for example, if this thing, this entire block, this entire thing, let's say if this were Hazal Kitabu, it would have meant this book. Alright? But this is Haza Kitabun. So it means that this thing means this is a book. Okay, now I have explained this thing already in section B, lesson 7b. All right, so if you're not clear on this Haza Kitabun and Hazal Kitabu too much, then I would really urge you to go to that lesson and give it a watch. Okay, so that you're clear on this thing. All right, so Haza is our Mubtada and Kitabun is our Khabar. Minallahi is our Mutalik bil Khabar, right? And this is our normal sequence. Mubtada, Khabar, Mutalik bil Khabar. Now, if I want to alter this sequence, let's say I want to bring this element in the beginning, all right? So it would mean that I have that it would mean that I have muqaddamized this minallahi. So it becomes here, or it comes here, okay? It becomes muqaddamized, or simply it undergoes a process of taqdeem. Okay, since this is too much to say to undergo the process of taqdeem, I prefer calling it muqaddamization. Okay, all right. Then next we have the word kitabun. Let's just say we want to displace it towards the end. I would say that this is muakharized. Okay, now Haza kitabun minallahi. This is a regular sentence without any stress in it. But if I say Haza minallahi kitabun, a stress gets added that this book is from Allah. Alright, so Haza minallahi kitabun. Okay, so now this stress can only be understood because you see, if you're familiar with this sequence alteration and the impact of this sequence alteration, you'll be very well able to relate to the subtle stresses and emphasis that are meant to be understood. Okay, so haza minallahi kitabun. That is not just a random book, dude. It's the book from Allah. What are you talking about? Okay, so this is the kind of stress that gets added. Okay, now what are the possibilities when it comes to sequence alteration? As you see, we have two kinds of sentences in Arabic. Uh, yeah, okay. We have two kinds of sentences in Arabic. We have jumla ismiya and jumla fi'liya, right? Now, um, we are going to first get the concept over here in this chart, all right, and then I'm going to present some examples to you for each of these for each of these five possibilities. Okay, all right, so let's see what we have in jumla ismiya first. Now our usual sequence for jumla ismiya is right here. All right, mubtada, khabar, and then mutalik bil khabar. Al-waladu mawjudun fil bayti. Now we don't usually say mawjudun. Okay, I have already explained this thing in the beginning of this section. Alright, so I'm not going to repeat it here. Al-waladu mawjudun fil bayti, mubtada khabar mutalik bil khabar. This is a normal sequence. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to produce stress in it by the means of sequence alteration. So there are two possibilities for me when it comes to jumla ismiya. I could either muqaddamize the mutalik bil khabar, alright, so this fil bayti part, I'm either going to bring it in the beginning, or I could muakharize the mubtada, alright. This mubtada thing, I'm going to bring this towards the end, alright. So these are the two possibilities. Now let's see. Alright. Okay, so we have our muqaddamized mutalik bil khabar. Alright, now we all know this sentence, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun, and that's how we say it, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. That is it. But actually the sequence over here in the second part of the sentence has been altered. Alright, and that's what I'm going to point out to you in this example. Inna lillahi is totally fine. Alright, it's a normal sequence, but inna ilayhi rajiun has been used. The normal sequence for this part is inna raji'una ilayhi, right? This is our mubtada, and then we have our khabar, and then we have our mutalik bil khabar, right? But it is not the case. The mutalik bil khabar has been muqaddamized. So if it were inna raji'una ilayhi, it would have been a normal sentence, right? That indeed we are returners, or our ultimate return is going to be towards him. Yeah, it's a normal thing, but it's not. Okay, why? Because the mutalik bil khabar has been muqaddamized, so it means indeed we are towards him, the returners or returners, that our ultimate return is not going to be towards Facebook, towards YouTube, towards Netflix, towards HBO, towards Star World, or towards what else do we have these days, WhatsApp or TikTok or all these things. No, Okay, our return is not going to be towards these things. Our returns are, we are the returners towards him. All right, so the specificity and exclusivity has been added towards him. Why? Because it has been muqaddamized. Instead of inna rajiuna ilayhi, it is inna ilayhi rajiun. Indeed, we are towards him returners. All right, so you see how this subtle knowledge, this little knowledge rather, can make you understand the tiniest of things that are simply lost in translations, right? And sadly enough, these things cannot be captured in translations. These things cannot be penned down. Okay, so knowing these things makes you understand these things beautifully and in a much better way, I would say. Okay, so I hope that this muqaddamized mutalik bil khabar is clear to you. We'll study a lot of examples regarding this shortly after we are done with this introductory um, introductory chart. Now, our second possibility is the muakharization of al-mubtada. Now, I'm not saying mubtada, I'm saying al-mubtada. Why is that? That is because a very important and a very subtle thing is related to this al-mubtada and mubtada. If you have a mubtada that gets muakharized, okay, and it's nakra, all right, it is nakra and it doesn't have any al attached to it, then that is a normal sentence with simply an abnormal sequence. Okay, so it would be translated normally without any stress in it. But if that muakharized mubtada has been attached with alif lam, simply al, then an exclusivity gets added upon it. Okay, so al mubtada is very important. It's not mubtada, it's al mubtada. Okay, so muakharized al mubtada, whenever you see this case, it means that an exclusivity has been added to the entire sentence. Okay, so if I said alayhi salamun, that would have been a normal sentence with simply an abnormal sequence, right? And in fact, that would be tankir, and we have already done tankir, right? So that would have taken its meanings towards some unique kind of piece. uh, all right, so it would have meant that some unique kind of piece is towards him. That would have been tankir. Okay, but then again, that would have been subject to the context and background and what's being talked of. But if I say alayhi salamu, here it is assalamu, right? Alayhi salamu, then exclusivity gets added to it, that exclusively upon him is the piece. Okay, you'll see more examples of this in a minute. Okay, now we have Jumla Fi'liya, and our normal sequence for Jumla Fi'liya is Fi'l, Fa'il, Maf'ul. Alright, we have already done this in section C, lesson 6, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, in lesson 6. Alright, Nasar al Waladu Zaidan, a very normal, unstressed, regular sentence. Alright, now we are going to play around with the file and maf'ul, and we're going to muqaddamize them. Okay, and then we'll see what the result is. Okay, now there are two possibilities. Of course, we are going to either muqaddamize the file or maf'ul. Now, so you see there are two possibilities: muqaddamization of maf'ul and muqaddamization of file. Okay, let's cover the maf'ul part first. Okay, so we have muqaddamization of maf'ul. Now, the normal sentence is na'buduka, and this is something that I have once again already explained in the catch-up series, actually, when I was telling you about the pronouns and the root words. Okay, so I've already explained this na'buduka and this iya. All right, but I'm going to repeat it very briefly over here as well. So na'buduka is our simple, regular, unstressed sentence. Na'buduka, it means we all worship and obey you. Okay, now I want to put stress in it by using the method of sequence alteration. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to move this maf'ul to the beginning of the sentence. Alright, so it will become ka na'budu. But this kind of formation isn't really used in Arabic because it doesn't really make any sense. Okay, so to make sense out of it, and yeah, just to make sense out of it, you actually, the Arabs have this word called iya. All right, they add this iya in the beginning, and then they use the maf'ul. Okay, and well, that's it. Okay, so this iya doesn't really mean anything in of itself, but it is used to give exclusivity and stress whenever the maf'ul is muqaddamized. Okay, so iyyaka na'budu would mean exclusively, solely you we worship and obey. Okay, na'buduka is a very simple and regular sentence without any stress, but iyyaka na'budu is a huge and very stressed, emphasized sentence. Okay, so this is the muqaddamization of maf'ul. Now we have the muqaddamization of fa'il. All right, let's which one? Okay, let's do this one. Now you all know that whenever it comes to jumla fi'liya, we have the fa'il which could either be exposed or unexposed. Once again, I have explained this exposed and unexposed fa'il thing in a great detail back in lesson 7b. Okay, now we have the exposed fa'il. Let's say we had the normal sentence of nasara al waladu zaidan. Now what I want to do is I want to bring this exposed fa'il to the beginning. So I've muqaddamized al-waladu. Okay. Now, as soon as I muqaddamize this al-waladu, what happens is that an intense stress gets added. Okay. In the beginning, I mean, in the previous sentence, we had Nasar al-waladu Zaidin. It was a regular sentence that a boy or simply the boy helped Zaid. But I'm saying al-waladu Nasara Zaidan. It means the boy, he helped Zaid. Why? Because here this thing gets translated all by itself, and Nasara is he helped, and then we have our maf'ul, right? So the boy, he helped Zaid. Now, is this sentence is this sentence similar in any way to the sentence the boy helped Zaid? I hope you're saying no. Why? Because yes, the words are the same, but the meaning is so much different, is it not? It is, right? So the boy, he helps it. Al-waladu, nasara zaidan, right? So that's what. So that's how whenever you muqaddamize the fa'il, you muqaddamize the exposed fa'il, that's how you're gonna translate it, okay, and understand it. Now, the same thing happens whenever the unexposed fa'il is muqaddamized. Now, I hope that you guys remember the rafa pronouns that are embedded within the fail patterns, and forget about this hum at the moment. You know this yuqinun, right? It means all of them are fully convinced. But I want to further emphasize on this fact that all of them are fully convinced. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to determine the rafa pronoun that is embedded within this yuqinun. This is hum, and now I'm going to pull that rafa pronoun out and muqaddamize it. Okay, so it's going to become hum yuqinuna. All right, so and as we had observed in this example, al-waladu nasara zaidan, the boy, he helps Zaid. The same thing happens here. We are first going to translate hum in our minds, and then yuqinun is going to come as it is. Okay, so hum yuqinun, all of them are fully convinced. Okay, so that's how stress gets added whenever you alter the sequence. Now, what is the impact of sequence alteration? First of all, as I mentioned before, stress gets added to the displaced element. And then, yeah, curiosity about the muakharized element is automatically induced. Okay, now I'm going to tell this thing in this lesson with the help of some examples. I think I need a cup of water, glass of water first. Okay. Um, and the third impact is that exclusivity about the muakharized mubtada gets there. Okay, so remember how I told you that it has to be al mubtada, right? So whenever an al mubtada is muakharized, exclusivity gets added. Okay, so you guys take a little break. I'll just go have a glass of water and then we're going to begin our examples. All right, so yeah, we are done with our summary chart and now just a couple of examples and we'll be done. All right, so we have the background of exposed and unexposed file. I hope that you guys don't need any further elaboration of this thing. Nasara means he helped. All right, so the pronoun of he is already embedded in it, right? And that's why I call it unexposed file, right? Now, if we have the sentence Nasara Hamidun, since the fail is followed by a Rafa ism, we can see that the file is actually exposed. Alright, so Hamid is the helper, he is the exposed file, right? And similarly, if I want to expose this unexposed file, I would simply have to expose this embedded he or embedded huwa, and that would become huwa nasara. Now that huwa nasara is actually going to be the jumla ismiya. Okay, now we're going to come to that in a minute, but let's see what I meant about the curiosity induction in the muakharized element. So one of the usage or one of the benefits of using this muakharization or muqaddamization is that you put curiosity, you induce curiosity in the minds of the reader or the listener for that brief moment of time until you or until the speaker says that word aloud that is supposed to be muakharized. Okay, so for example, if I say Inna akramakum indallahi. Now, before I mention this hidden part, this muakharized part, the minds of the listener or the reader already are on a race. They're already racing that who are those people who are most honored among all of who are those most honored people near Allah. All right, so our minds are the mind of the reader or the listener is already racing. All right, so that's kind of a curiosity that gets added to the motorized element when you use this way of stress. All right, now before I mention this thing, I would like you to notice this akramakum. If you notice, this is the af'ala pattern, akrama, af'ala, right? And this is the muzaf, muzaf alayh. So this means that this is the superlative form. All right. So remember how we had ism, tafsil, baz, and kul. All right. So superlatives is your ism tafsil kul, right? So this is af'ala, and since it has been joined or it has been attached with kum as a muzaf and muzaf alayh fragment, therefore we see or we conclude that this is actually your superlative, not a comparative, because in comparatives you use the harf jar min. All right. All right, so inna akramakum indallahi. Indeed, the most honored among you all near Allah are. Now you want to know who they are. All right, so this curiosity gets induced in the minds of the reader or the listener, and then you mention atqakum. Okay. Now usually the word muttaqi or taqwa, this thing usually gets translated roughly as and commonly as righteousness or righteous. Okay, now there's a deeper meaning to taqwa, or muttaqi. The one who practices taqwa is muttaqi, and that means the ones who want to be protected. Okay, so they take steps, they're very careful because they want to be protected. So that's why I have written protection seekers. Okay, indeed, the most honored among you all near Allah are the ones who are protection seekers, or are the protection seekers, those who want to be protected. So if you want to be protected, that is something that is going to earn you the place of those who are most honored near Allah. So even wanting to be protected and then doing something about it, it is it is while it's such a little thing, and yet it earns you that place, that rank. That's huge. Okay, so atqakum, this is your muakharized element, all right, because it was supposed to be here. The regular sentence, the unstressed sentence would have been inna akramakum atqakum indallahi, right? But we have seen that this atqakum has actually been muakharized, right? Oh yeah, and this entire thing is the mubtada, and this atqakum is the khabar, and this is mutaliq bil khabar, right? So I hope that this curiosity thing is also clear to you. Similarly, we have inna allaha ala kulli shay'in what, right? So indeed, Allah upon all the things is what? Now your mind is curious. Is it going to be filled with Shaheed, Basir, Khabir, Qadir? All right. So your mind starts racing that, okay, what is it? Okay. So what's the use of, or what's the benefit of this is that it grabs the attention of the reader, and at the same time it invites him to reflect on that word too, because once you get to know about it, so the first thing is that the attention of the reader gets grabbed, all right. Secondly, the curiosity gets produced in his mind, that what is the word that is going to be mentioned after this split second. And once he gets to know of that word, he is going to automatically going to start reflecting on it. Okay, so for example, if I say inna allaha ala kulli shay'in qadir, this is actually qadirun, all right. Inna allaha ala kulli shay'in qadirun. The khabar has been muakharized, therefore the curiosity was induced about it. And the second thing is that the attention was also grabbed, all right. And the third thing is that now you are going to reflect upon it. Okay, that yes. And once again, this is not the regular or the normal sequence of the sentence. The normal sequence would have been inna allaha qadirun ala kulli shay'in, right? But that khabar has been muakharized. Okay, all right. And at the same time, you can see that this ala kulli shay'in has been muqaddamized. So this gets, or this brings its own stress to the sentence, that indeed, and of course we have stress over here as well. So indeed, undoubtedly, Allah upon every single thing is powerful, is the controller of all these things, is the perpetual controller of all these things. Okay, so this entire thing can only be understood. Sadly enough, it cannot be captured properly in words. All right, similarly we have inna allaha ala kulli shay'in shahidun, a witness. All right, so these were the examples of curiosity thing. All right, now we are going to see what are the examples of a muqaddamized mutaliq bil khabar. Now we are going to speed up a little because the concept is clear, and it's only the examples just to just to get ourselves more familiar with these situations. Okay, so our first example is wa fawqa. Fawqa is our zarf, all right. It means above. وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٌ. Now, not only was this word muakharized, right? A curiosity got added because of this muakharization, and this is actually the mubtada, right? Because the normal sequence is wa alimun fawqa kulli zi ilmin, possessor of knowledge. Okay, we are going to cover zu, za, zi, all these words in the next few lessons, inshallah. Okay, so a super perpetual nur is present above each and every possessor of knowledge. Okay, well, so that's how you're going to understand it as that. And above every single possessor of knowledge is a perpetual and continual nur. Okay, so that's what. Now let's come here. Amanna billahi, a very regular normal sequence. All right, wa alayhi tawakkalna. Now here the mutaliq bil khabar has been muqaddamized, therefore wa alayhi tawakkalna, right? So the specificity gets added. So, and only upon him we have relied. Wa alayhi tawakkalna. All right, next sentence. Wa bil akhirati hum yuqinun. Now this is the same thing. What has happened here is that here not only has this mutaliq bil khabar been muqaddamized, you can also see that the hidden or the embedded rafa pronoun within this yuqinun has been pulled out and exposed and muqaddamized. So the stress has been intensified. Wabil akhirati hum yuqinun, and in the afterlife, all of them are fully convinced. That's how it is supposed to be understood in our minds. Okay, next. Wallahu bima ta'maluna khabirun. Once again, you can see that the mubtada is right here, but the khabar has been mu'akhkharized. It was supposed to be here between the word Allah and the mutaliq bil khabar bima ta'maluna, but it has been mu'akhkharized. Alright, so first of all, the curiosity has been added regarding the mu'akhkharized content. Secondly, the attention of the reader has been grabbed by mu'akhkharizing it. And once again, after the reader or the listener has got to know that the mu'akhkharized word is khabirun, he automatically begins to reflect upon it. All right, so this thing here, or rather you could say that this sequence alteration thing here has also served to get the listener's act together. Okay, he'll get his act together after listening to the word khabirun, or after reading the word khabirun, that whatever you do, or simply you're going to understand it as, and Allah, what regarding whatever you all do, is perpetually aware. All right, so in the parentheses it's going to be implied that guys, get your act together. Okay, so that was the final example of a mu'akhkharized or rather muqaddamized mutaliq bil khabar. All right, now we have the examples of mu'akhkharized al-mubtada. Now I told you that the mubtada has to be attached with al in order to have, or in order to be imparted with exclusivity. Okay, so for example, we have lil kafirin al azabu, an example. All right, that for the disbelievers is the punishment. Now this is the regular translation that you're going to come across. However, since we have al added to the mubtada, an exclusivity gets imparted to this entire thing, this entire sentence, that the punishment is reserved only for the disbelievers. All right, so an exclusivity gets present in it, and this of course is a stressed sentence. Now what if there is no al? What if it's a nakra mubtada, okay, that has been mu'akhkharized? Then of course there would be no exclusivity. Okay, it would be absent, and it would be treated as a normal sentence but with an abnormal sequence. Okay, so there would be no exclusivity. For example, lil kafirina azabun. However, since there is no exclusivity present, it means that this punishment is not going to be reserved only for the disbelievers, but other groups might also taste it, right? And guess which one is used in the Quran Pak? This thing. Alright, so the phrase that is also used in the Quran Pak is the one that has no exclusivity in it. So just because you're a Muslim doesn't mean, just because you're a believer doesn't mean that you are not going to be punished. Just because I'm a Muslim doesn't mean that may Allah save us all from the punishment of every kind in this world as well as in the next world. Okay, so since this formation has been used in the Quran Pak, this has also been used in the Quran Pak, therefore it means that there is no exclusivity. Being a Muslim or a believer does not guarantee a clean ticket from all the punishments. Okay, so we should always stand guard of whatever we do. Okay, we should stand guard over ourselves and always seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright, so you see how this little thing, how the knowledge of this little thing has acted in such a profound manner in making you realize that uh, that there is no exclusivity from when it comes to the punishment. Okay, it's not reserved only for the disbelievers, but other groups might also taste it because there is no al with the muakharized mubtada. Okay, so it is quite scary, and yet the knowledge of this little thing is so beneficial, I would say. It does wonders, really. And once again, this thing cannot be captured in words. Okay, it cannot be penned down, and that is the saddest part of it. And yet, I would say it's a good thing because then how else would anybody, or how else would anybody be driven to learn these things? Because once you learn these little and powerful concepts, I would say, little yet powerful concepts, our understanding and our connection with the Quran Pak gets so much stronger. Okay, let's look at another example. So we have the example of fihi hudan. All right, in it is guidance. Now, once again, no al is present with this. No, by the way, this is the rafa form. Okay, why? Because the word hudan is mabni, so this means that its rafa, nasab, and jar forms are going to be identical. Okay, now if you don't know what munsarif, ghair munsarif, and mabni words are, I would ask you to go to the catch up series, lecture 10, and over there you'll find all about munsarif, ghair munsarif, and mabni asma. Alright, so the word hudan is mabni, which means that its rafa, nasab, and jar forms are going to be hudan, 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 respectively. Okay, so yeah, so this is our mubtada, and it has been muakharized, and it is without al. This means there is no exclusivity over here. So, and it also makes sense because fihi hudan, it would mean that in it is guidance. So not only is the guidance present only in the book, all right, because you know it's from the Surah Al-Baqarah, so not only in it is guidance, there are many other modes of guidance that we have around us. Many people get guidance from their dreams. They get jolted into reality from their slumber. So one could even get guidance from nature, from the phenomena of nature, all right, or from any near-death experience, one could say. So anything could be a mode of guidance or a source of guidance. Okay, so that's why there is no exclusivity added with the word hudan. Okay, all right. Then next we have the example Lillahil hamdu. Now, if you had said, or let's just say there are two people, person A and person B, and person A being a disbeliever or a non-Muslim is saying that, well, hamd is for so and so as well, then of course you're going to say no. Hamd is exclusively for Allah. So in that case, you're not going to say lillahi hamdun. You're going to say lillahil hamdu. Okay, that exclusively for Allah is the hamd. Okay, so in a way you can say that this formation, this muqarrization of al-mubtada also serves to clarify or to negate the previously wrong concept or the previously wrong statement. Okay, that no, it's exclusively for Allah. Okay, so that's what. Next we have fi qulubihim marazun. Once again, no exclusivity is present because the word marazun is without al. Okay, all right. Then we have the examples for muqaddamized maf'ul. Once again, quite easy because I've already explained this one. We have the first example as Iyyaka na'budu, only you we worship and obey. The second example is Iyyaka nasta'in. It means only you we seek help from in the matters that we are already struggling in. Okay. Then Iyaya farhabun, so fear only and exclusively me. Okay. This is something that has been repeated over and over again in Surah Al-Baqarah. All right. Then we have the examples of exposing the corresponding rafa pronoun. So we have the verb or the fi'il nasara. Okay, it means nasara means he helped, right? But here in nasara, the fa'il has been hidden or embedded. Okay, it's not exposed. Now, if we want to put stress in it, what are we going to do? Well, we are going to pull out the embedded pronoun within this nasara, which is, of course, huwa, okay? And then we're going to put this huwa before nasara, okay? So it's going to become huwa nasara, okay? Now, this huwa nasara is jumla ismiya, of course, because it is beginning with an ism. Huwa is an ism, right? So it is going to be converted into Jumla Ismiya, number one. Number two, as I had explained in the summary chart above, that this Huwa is going to be translated all by itself, and then the Nasara part is going to be treated or translated on its own. So he helped. Okay, so first the he of Huwa, and then he helped of Nasara. So he helped. Once again, stress has been intensified over here. Next, we have the example khalaqna, we created. A very simple sentence, regular sentence with no stress in it. What's the embedded pronoun? What's the embedded rafa pronoun in khalaqna? It is nahnu. So what do? We pull that nahnu from this khalaqna and we put it right here in the muqaddamized fashion, and then it gets a very emphasized sentence that we created. Okay, we created. This is how it is supposed to sound in our head. Okay, nahnu khalaqna. Okay, that it's not anybody else, guys, it's me, it's we created. What's wrong with you? It's like the verbal form of throttling our minds. Okay, we created. So that's the thing. All right. Then we have Nasarat. She helped, a very regular, unstressed sentence. And then we are going to pull out the embedded Rafa pronoun, and it's going to become Hiya Nasarat. She helped, not anybody else helped. She helped. Okay, so that is how it should be sounding in our heads. Okay, so see, these are very subtle points, but when you know these things, the entire world starts looking different. Okay, and inshallah, when you're going to notice these things in your in the musaf during your recitation, inshallah, you're going to connect with it, inshallah, in a very different manner. Okay, all right. Now we have the examples of muqaddamizing an exposed file. So over here I had just told you that how you're going to expose the pronoun, and now you are going to expose, you're going to muqaddamize the exposed file, a file that is already present, and now you're going to simply muqaddamize it. Okay, so here we were muqaddamizing the pronouns that were already embedded within those verbs, and now we are going to muqaddamize the actual exposed files. Okay, so as you can see over here, you have Nasara Hamidun Zaidan. Hamid helped Zaid, a very regular Jumla Fi'liya. Now we are going to muqaddamize this exposed file, and we are going to say Hamidun Nasara Zaidan. It's going to become a Jumla Ismiya, because it is starting with a with this thing, with an ism. Hamidun is an ism. All right. Now, due to this conversion, what happens is that not only does a huge stress gets added, that it was Hamid helped him, all right, or Hamid, he helped Zaid. Okay, that's how it's going to sound in our head. Now this conversion is also going to cause this this muqaddamization. I'm sorry, this muqaddamization of the file is also going to cause the transformation of this jumla fi'liya into jumla ismiya. Okay, that's why all the rules that I had told you earlier on in lesson 3 of section B regarding jumla ismiya, they are going to apply to this new sentence, because this was jumla fi'liya and now this is Jumla Ismiya. So the rules that you need to follow are over here. Okay, so you're going to follow these rules of Jumla Ismiya for this newly converted sentence. Okay, so you have the first rule, that the file gets relabeled as Mubtada, of course, and then the fail gets relabeled as Khabar. Okay, and since the Khabar is actually was your old fail, so obviously the Khabar has to correspond to the Mubtada in terms of its number and gender. Okay, so what this means is that if you had Nasr al-Muslimu, which was the Muslim helped, Jumla Fi'liya, it got converted into Jumla Ismiya because of the muqaddamization of the exposed file. It means that this Al-Muslimu is now the Mubtada and this Nasara is actually your Khabar. Okay, so the Khabar, which is Nasara, should and must correspond to the number and gender of Mubtada. Okay, therefore you see these sentences. Nasr al-Muslimani. Here you have the two male Muslims helped, right? But al-Muslimani, the exposed file, is going to be muqaddamized. So it's going to become al-Muslimani Nasara. The two male Muslims, they helped. That's what it's going to become. Now, here it was Nasara, all right? But here it is Nasara, all right? Why? Because this portion is no longer a fail. This is now the khabar, and the khabar must correspond to the number and the gender of the this thing, the mubtada. Therefore, this is nasara. All right, al-muslimani nasara. Similarly, nasara al-muslimuna. Here we have the huwa version of nasara. Alright, now this huwa version of Nasara and all these things, I've already explained this in lesson 7 of section B. So if you are still unclear about these things, I would really urge you to go to lesson 7 and give that lesson a watch, because I've explained all these things in great detail over there. Okay, so we have now muqaddamized this al-muslimuna, and it has now become al-muslimuna nasaru. Why? Because this thing now has become mubtada, has now become a khabar, and that khabar must correspond to the mubtada's number and gender. Okay, so that's what. I hope that this thing is also clear now. And of course, the implication is that the two is that the mubtada is going to be translated separately, and then this portion is going to be translated separately. Similarly, we have this and this, that the two Muslims, they helped. Okay. Similarly, the Muslims, all of them helped. All right. So that's what. And the impact remains the same. That you get exclusivity and stress, and the correction of the previous implication also gets imparted, and of course the ambiguity gets clarified. All right, so it was the two Muslims who had helped. That's the clarification of ambiguity, that perhaps they were thinking that somebody else had helped, but actually it was the two Muslims who had helped. Okay, so al-Muslimani nasara. All right, that's what. So, well, we are done with this lesson. I know it got a bit long, but well, all the concepts and examples that I tried to convey over here were worth it, I would say, because they are very frequently repeated concepts and scenarios in the Musaf, and I would say that knowing these things can help you connect and understand the word of Allah in a very great way, I would say. So, well, I'll see you in the next lesson, inshallah. And that would be the last lesson when it comes to the modes of stress. And, well, in the meantime, watch this particular lesson, the sequence alteration one, once or twice so that you are clear on this, okay? Because this is very important and I would say very easy lesson, okay? A bit long, yes, but everything that I have mentioned here is worth listening to even twice and thrice. Okay, so I'll see you in the next lesson, inshallah. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al Hakim. Allah Hafiz.